Hi everyone, it's Buffy. I am coming to you live this afternoon. We are outside again and exploring the Yamas and Niyamas as a part of the Nap Time series, which is just some live videos I'm bringing to you here on YouTube as part of my 300-hour teacher training with Edge Yoga School. Kind of right up here. So we just started a new book and a new topic, and that is the Yamas and the Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice. We're using this book by Deborah Adele. It's a wonderful reference book, and I recommend you buy it. You can find it on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. So we've already gone through kind of an introductory video exploring all of the jewels of the Yamas and Niyamas, and we also went further in depth in our second video here on ahimsa, which is nonviolence. So I do recommend you watch both of those as prerequisites to watching this video. So they kind of build on each other and go in order, and I will refer to topics that we already discussed in the other videos. So I am really enjoying rereading this book. I think this is my third time going through the whole book, and bringing some of my favorite parts and takeaways to you. So thanks for joining me. And you know, the Yamas and Niyamas are the first of the 8 limbs of yoga. So even before asana, which is the third limb, we are taught the ethical side of yoga, which I think is really important to note, because the order does matter. And as with most things in yoga, it's kind of like building blocks, and you know, you can't rush into your postures on your mat just like you can't rush into yoga as a whole. You have to take it bit by bit, and so I'm really happy to be sharing today on Satya, which is truthfulness. So yes, here we go. This jewel is not safe, but it is good. She starts out the chapter talking about Chronicles of Narnia and Aslan, if you've ever watched or read the book or watched the movie. Aslan is the lion, and he's really fierce and revered, and he's said to be scary, but he's good. And so she talks about how Satya, or truthfulness, is not safe. It's a little scary sometimes, but it's good because it has the power to right wrongs. So when we think about truthfulness, we think about like not telling a fib or not telling a lie, but it's a lot more than that. It demands integrity to life and to our own self. That's more than just not telling lies. So we're going to talk about like integrity, and I just love the way she paints these pictures. She's a really great author for this topic. Really easy read. When we are real rather than nice, when we choose self-expression over self-indulgence, when we choose growth over the need to belong, and when we choose fluidity over rigidity, we begin to understand the deeper dynamics of truthfulness, and we begin to taste the freedom and goodness of this jewel. They're called jewels. All 10 of the Yamas and Niyamas. So yeah, we're going to go into each of those. So there's self-expression versus self-indulgence, growth over the need to belong, fluidity over rigidity, and then we'll start to understand more about Satya. First, be real rather than nice. So, I love to think that I'm an authentic person, so I really resonated with this part. I don't like to be fake at all. I mean, I'm a nice person, but more often than not, I'm a little misunderstood sometimes because I'm just myself, and I just, with a first impression, somebody might think I'm kind of like not as nice, but I'm just like not faking. I'm not fake. She talks about how a lot of people do like to put on like a front, and I do sometimes. It's just human nature to want to be accepted. But one lady says, or one of her friends, I pick the right sized box, put myself in it, wrap it with pretty paper and a bow, and then present myself to the other person. And another of her friends says, I always show up differently with different people. My biggest fear is that everyone I know will be in the same room at the same time, and I won't know who to be. Yikes. That would not be fun. And to some extent, like, you have different experiences with different people, so they have a different understanding of who you are, but I think she's talking about, like, the essence of who you are should be the same across the board. Sometimes it's easier, though, to just be a chameleon and be whoever people want or expect you to be. And so that's, like, easier to do. But nice is an illusion, a cloak hiding lies. It's made up of what we think we should be. It's packaging of oneself in a presentable box imposed by an outer authority. So think about that. Who has the authority on you, and who's telling you how to be? And why are you listening to them? Realness speaks from your true center. It has a boldness to it, an essence, a spontaneity. There's nothing that you have to defend or manage when you're being your true self, because it's just who you are. It's real. It's authentic. So, what is driving you to distort yourself or silence yourself or say yes when you say no? I'll ask that again. What is driving you to distort yourself or silence yourself or say yes when you mean no? That's a good journaling prompt. That's one thing I like about this book too, is she really wants you to take it slow, and at the end of the chapter we give 4 weeks worth of themes and things to work on. So we'll talk more about that at the end. Moving on to self-expression versus self-indulgence. So when we silence and distort ourselves, we start to lose our lust for life. Have you ever felt that? I know I have. And we look toward other things to fulfill us. We forget that we're here on earth to express ourselves in a way no one else possibly could. So oftentimes we're kind of like working from shoulds and should nots instead of from our own true self. And we find ourselves hiding by overeating or overworking rather than doing what we really want to do. Sometimes it's like it requires less energy to be true to yourself. Living the life that cries to be lived from the depth of our being frees up our energy and our vitality. We benefit and everyone around us benefits. Yes. Because when you are suppressing that life force energy or the true essence of who you are, for whatever reason, she says it takes a lot of our energy just to manage the pretending. Yes. A lot to digest here. The need to belong versus the need to grow. Moving on. When we start to grow in our lives, we start to grow in directions that are beyond whatever group we're a part of. So at first you're in your family group, right? And you probably experienced this as an adolescent, when you started to grow up and you didn't necessarily agree with everything your parent did or wanted you to do. You start to kind of grow out of that. And then she says you can experience guilt about this. And that's not just when you're, going through adolescence to adulthood. It's as adults, we're all part of groups. I'm going to describe some of those groups in a moment. But sometimes when we grow out of the group, we experience guilt. And the truth of our freedom carries the price of guilt. Wow. So some of the groups we belong to: our country, our culture, our gender, our class, our age group, our race, our religion, our family of origin, our community, our workplace. I mean, all the organizations you're a part of, all the other roles that you play. Those are your groups. And having to fit into all of those groups can be exhausting, right? Much more freeing to be your true self. But that that can cost a lot. When a conflict arises between the need to belong and the need to grow, we have to make a choice. We must either sacrifice a part of ourselves to maintain our belonging, or we must risk the approval and support of the group by growing. And that's kind of scary as humans because we want to be part of the tribe. We want to fit in because we survive better together, right? It's kind of part of our makeup, and we're trying to survive first and foremost, right? So it's difficult to sometimes see past that desire to fit in. I often hear people say, I just don't know what to do. And I think more often than not, we do know what to do. The cost of our realness just seems too high at the time. I love this. I used it in a post the other day because I am working as I outgrow some of my groups to be brave and to trust my intuition and trust my true self, my real self, and listen to that whisper inside rather than depending on and clinging to what other people in my group tell me that I need to do. It's scary, but also liberating and awesome. And I'm getting to know myself more. So, yeah, I don't know what to do. It's, we say that a lot, but more often than not, we do know. It's just the cost of making the choice we know we should make is higher than what we want to pay. Okay, do it right the first time. Pretty self-explanatory. Can you imagine speaking and acting so correctly that you never have to go back and apologize or make a new agreement with somebody? That would be awesome. Not going to happen all the time, but it's something we can work towards. What about those lies that we tell ourselves? She talks about scheduling. And I really identified with this because I tend to want to live life to the fullest, and I pack my schedule, and then you don't allow time for the reality of interruptions, rest, or play. And then you have to backtrack on what you said you were going to do and change your mind and talk to people. And what if you could just be honest with yourself the first time and be like, 2 things in 1 hour is too much for me, or whatever it is. Everybody's in different stages in their journey, and if you have kids, it goes a lot slower, getting in the car and all of those things. So you're more limited on your time. But just being real, so you don't have to go back and apologize to people and apologize to yourself and be disappointing to yourself and others. What a great challenge, and what a great way to frame that. Just let's be real. What can I actually fit in a day and still feel good and still have time to rest and play and allow for interruptions? I love that. So doing it right the first time. Okay, the next subtopic is truth is fluid. Because of its marriage to nonviolence, truth has a fluidity to it, which is kind of refreshing. When I was reading this chapter, I was sitting next to a stream, and it's very fluid, obviously, made of water. And I was thinking of truth as water and how fluid it is and how it can change over time. Growing up, I was taught there was absolute truth, and truth was taught to be black and white. But as I age, I realize that what's true for some is not true for another because it's a different experience. And also, she mentions this in the book, what's true for you in one stage of your life isn't going to necessarily be true for you in a different stage. So let's get into that. Yogi Raj Akala reminds us, what are you not seeing because you are seeing what you are seeing? What are you not seeing because you're seeing what you are seeing? So that goes to you're saying this is true, this is true, this is true. What else are you not seeing? And it changes. The compassion of nonviolence keeps truthfulness from being a personal weapon. So she's saying we need to clear our lens every once in a while and kind of open our mind, because we get so set in our ways sometimes with what is true or not, and that's just our experience. So That's what that quote is referencing. Carl Jung, which I really love how much she mentioned him as having like a psychology and therapy background, he understood the fluidity of truth when he made the statement that what is true at one time for us at some point no longer serves us and eventually becomes a lie. So it becomes a lie. Wow. He understood that truth changes over time, and what's true for you when you're 2 years old is not true, even relevant, when we're 17. So Jung writes, thoroughly unprepared, we make the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take this step with the false presupposition that our truths and ideals will serve us as hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie. I love that. It's such a beautiful